the ones who would break the mold, that would push back against the tall poppy syndrome, you are losing ever more of, there is a dearth of precisely the countervailing force that you want to the worst parts of some of British culture, the bottom-up stuff, not the top-down stuff. And it seems like a recursive cycle, and I appreciate that I have perhaps contributed to that. After 15 years of coaching maybe 1,000 18 to 25-year-olds in a desperate attempt to try and move culture, I'm like, pull the ripcord, like I'm going to go somewhere else. Anyway, I was going to show you this video. So this is a TikTok of an American guy who spent 6 months in the UK, in London, and he's describing his experience. I've cut a little bit into this, but he's basically said his grandparents were British. He sees himself a little bit as British, and this isn't meant to be as a dig at British people. So we'll have a watch of this.
The people there don't seem like they're having fun. They seem like they're constantly trying to escape misery. They seem like their work is just so depressing, and that the joke is that everything is depressing and bad. And like, that's the entire sense of humor. It's like, this all sucks. Let's just make jokes about it. The class system is so obvious and weird. Like, they're just upper class people, lower class people, and you're just born into it. And the accents, you can tell based on people's accents. And that's weird. In America, it's pretty much like you have to give it to us or to America that you just earn your way. And I know there's lots of, people, you get born into things, you're lucky. But if you get rich, if you move up in your class, you're just able to. In England, it's like, you're never gonna really be upper class if you're born lower class. They'll always know that you're not. Because it's about culture. It's not just about money. It's about like the way you act. And there's a lot of like inter-class like anger and like weird feelings. And also, I just want to say there's a lot of anger in the culture. I was at a lot of games, soccer games, Premier League games, things like that. And the fans are so angry. Like, it's not like America where people get mad or whatever, and, but it's like normal. It's like they're a little mad. In England, they're like so pissed the whole time. They're just looking for like reasons to let their anger out. And there's so much anger. There's so much swearing. There'll be a 6-year-old just yelling the C word. It's like, what the hell? What's going on here? It's like borderline. I'm looking around thinking like, this is uncivilized.
6-year-old yelling the C word. That's what makes Britain great.
Make Britain great again.
He's bang on, man. He's bang on. Look, I do think part of it is the weather, to be honest.
Dude, it's huge. It's a huge, massive influence. You know what it's like. You come out to Austin, Texas. When was the first time you came out this year? February? Something like February, March, maybe?
March, yeah.
March time?
I actually don't like the weather in Austin, to be honest.
March is fine.
March is fine. The rest, yeah.
Well, you only came in March, and then you came back in October.
Yeah, between November and March, the weather in Austin is fine.
Beautiful.
But if you spend a week in LA and you just look around, I can see why these people are happy. Because the weather is really nice. So I think that's part of it.
But that is the country. Okay, unless we're going to get to the stage where we can terraform the ozone layer above the UK, this isn't going to change. So what do you need to do? Compensate.
Yes, exactly. You have to compensate for it. And the compensation for it is, like, if you go to central London, the nice parts of it, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. And when... on those 3 days a year when Britain is sunny, it's the most beautiful country in the world, But what you have to do is make the other things in this country so good that it trumps that. And that means people have to have a better quality of life than they otherwise do.
Correct.
And that means they have to be able to afford a home. That means they have to be able to raise their kids and all the rest of it. I was very persuaded by a book by a guy called Desmond Morris called The Human Zoo, in which he talked about the fact that essentially all the problems that we see in modern human society are exactly the problems you get if you put animals into those exact conditions. So in a zoo, the animals that are there, they have much less space than they need. They may be surrounded by other animals that they don't necessarily want to be surrounded by, and all sorts of other things. And they have the exact same outcomes in terms of interpersonal violence, mental health, failure to reproduce, and on and on and on. So partly this is just a problem of the fact that we have a very, very broken housing market, which prices people out of it. And, the houses here are very small. So most people end up flat sharing in central London or wherever, living 4 to a flat. Well, are you going to expect those people to be happy? Are you going to expect them to have kids?
Less personal space.
That's personal space. And then, all of the other things that build on top of it. So you have to have a fundamental shift in the way that this country operates. And in order for that to happen, maybe we need to hit that, alcoholics rock bottom.
What do you make? You mentioned it earlier on. What do you make of Starmer's recent comments on immigration?
Well, he's saying the Tories failed, which we all know is true, but I don't think he's going to make things any better. So I think this situation is going to continue the way it's been going because, as I say, we know this from having people like Suella Braverman on our show. We basically said, the reason I, as Home Secretary, the person in charge, could not reduce immigration was not actually the thing that most other people are saying, which is, the civil service doesn't let you, although I'm sure parts of that are true. It's that our own government didn't want it to happen. And the reason is they know that if we reduce mass immigration, we are going to have a problem with the economy. Because the headline figure will be, well, we're no longer growing by the amazing figure of 0.7%.